My father abandoned me on Christmas at 9 to go on vacation with my stepmom. Years later, they came back begging for $30,000 for my stepsister. But my answer left them speechless and destroyed their perfect family. I'm 25 years old. I work in accounting. And what happened with my family basically destroyed me for years, but also, in a weird way, saved me. I don't know if that makes sense, but I need to tell this story because there are still days when I wake up and can't believe all of this actually happened to me. I guess I should start at the beginning. When I was 9 years old and my mom died, I don't remember much about the funeral, to be honest. What I do remember perfectly is the feeling of emptiness in the house afterward, like someone had turned off all the lights even though the sun was coming through the windows. My dad, Thomas, was like 38 at the time, and I remember he looked lost. You know, like he didn't know what to do with me or with himself. We spent our days in silence, ate cereal for dinner because neither of us could cook well, and the house was always messy, but neither of us had the energy to clean. It was sad, but it was just the two of us against the world. Or at least, that's how I felt. About a year later, my dad started dating Rebecca. At first, it didn't seem weird to me. I mean, I was a kid and didn't understand much about those things. But I remember the first time I saw her, I thought she looked really young, like she could be my dad's older sister instead of his girlfriend. I found out later she was like 12 years younger than him. But at that moment, I just thought she was pretty and that my dad seemed happier. Rebecca was all smiles when she was around me. She'd buy me little things, ask me about school, and I, like the foolish kid I was, thought maybe things were going to get better. My dad told me one day, I think we were eating pizza in the living room, that Rebecca was going to be good for us, that we needed someone to help us be a family again. And I believed him. Because what else was I going to do? Things moved fast after that. Like, way too fast looking back. About 6 months after meeting Rebecca, my dad announced that she and her daughter Nicole were going to move in with us. Nicole was 17 when she arrived, almost an adult, and I was barely 10. I remember the day they arrived with all their boxes, and my dad asked me to be nice and help them settle in. Nicole didn't even look at me that day, just went straight up to her room, which used to be the guest room, and closed the door. Rebecca gave me a hug and told me we were a family now, and I wanted to believe her. I really did. But things started changing almost immediately. And when I say immediately, I mean literally the first week. Rebecca started making chore lists, and basically all of them had my name on them. I had to wash dishes, clean the kitchen, vacuum the living room, fold laundry, take out the trash, clean the bathrooms, and a bunch of other stuff. At first I thought, well, maybe this is normal. Maybe all families do this. But then I'd see Nicole sprawled on the couch watching TV, or in her room on her phone, doing absolutely nothing. And when I asked my dad if Nicole could help too, he just said Nicole was busy with school and her stuff, and that I needed to learn responsibility. I was 10 years old. You know what I mean? 10. And I was already doing more housework than anyone else. The first Christmas with them was when I really understood something was very, very wrong. My dad announced that he, Rebecca, and Nicole were going on vacation to the beach for like a week. I was super excited, thinking obviously I was going too, but then Rebecca said, very casual, that someone had to stay home to take care of Rocky, Nicole's dog. A huge golden retriever that Nicole had brought when they moved in, and that, of course, I was the only one who fed him, walked him, and cleaned up after him because Nicole didn't do any of that. My dad looked at me and said, well, honey, you can stay, right? You're big now. And I just stood there, at 9 years old, because my birthday had been like 2 weeks before, unable to believe what I was hearing. They left me alone. On Christmas. With a dog. I was 9 years old and they left me alone in the house for a full week, while they went on vacation to the beach. Rebecca left money on the kitchen table for me to order pizza, as if that made everything okay, and they left. I remember sitting on the stairs and crying for hours after they left, with Rocky lying next to me as if he knew I needed someone. I spent Christmas watching movies alone, eating leftovers I found in the fridge, and trying not to think about how my dad had left me like I didn't matter at all. 2 days after Christmas, my Aunt Diana, my mom's sister, showed up as a surprise with my cousin Jason. She had called the house to wish me Merry Christmas, and I, like an idiot, had told her I was alone. Diana was like 45 and had always been super protective of me, especially after my mom died. When she saw I was actually alone, her face turned red with fury. like I'd never seen her that angry. Jason, who was like 14 at the time, I just hugged me and said I was going to stay with them until my dad got back. And that's what I did. Diana called my dad and yelled at him on the phone, told him he was irresponsible. How could he think of leaving a 9-year-old alone? That my mom would be horrified if she knew what he'd done. I could hear my dad on the other end trying to justify himself, saying I was fine. It was only a week. She was being dramatic. But Diana didn't buy any of it. I stayed with her that week, and it was the first time since my mom died that I felt like someone really cared about me. Jason let me win at all the video games we played. Diana made my favorite meals, and for the first time in months, I didn't have to clean anything or do any chores. It was like being in a different world. When my dad came back, Diana went to the house and had a serious conversation with him. I was in my room but could hear everything. Diana was telling him the treatment I was getting wasn't okay, that I wasn't a servant, that Nicole was 17 and could perfectly well do her own chores. My dad just said Diana didn't understand. Things were different now. He was trying to keep his new wife happy. And that's when I understood, even at that age, that my dad had decided his happiness with Rebecca was more important than my well-being. That hurt more than anything else. The years went on and things only got worse. Nicole graduated high school, went to the local university, because Rebecca insisted she stay home to save money, and basically did nothing but occasionally go to classes and hang out with her friends. Meanwhile, I was still the one cleaning everything, cooking when Rebecca didn't feel like it, and basically keeping the house running. By 12, I already knew how to do laundry, iron, cook basic meals, and clean a bathroom better than any adult. And the saddest part is, I started thinking this was normal, that maybe all families were like this, and I was the weird one for feeling like something was wrong. Jason, who by then was like 17, came to visit me when he could. He and Diana were basically my only connection to something that felt like real family. Jason would help me with my homework sometimes, and always asked how I was doing, if I needed anything. One day, when I was like 13, Jason was at my house helping me with a science project and saw Nicole sprawled on the couch watching TV while I cleaned the kitchen after dinner. He asked me why Nicole never helped, and I just shrugged and said that's how things were. He looked at me with a face I can't describe, like somewhere between sad and angry, but didn't say anything else that day. When I was 14, I finally tried to talk to my dad about all this. It was a Saturday morning. He was drinking coffee in the kitchen and I had just finished cleaning up after breakfast. I told him, very direct, that it didn't seem fair to me that I did all the housework while Nicole did nothing, that I felt more like an employee than his daughter. My dad sighed, like that tired sigh he made when he didn't want to deal with something, and told me, "Life's not fair, honey. You just have to deal with it." Just like that. There was no conversation, no attempt to understand how I felt. Just a deal with it. And he kept drinking his coffee like he hadn't said something that basically broke my heart. Rebecca heard part of that conversation and came into the kitchen with that fake smile she always had. She told me I was very lucky to have a roof over my head and food on the table, that many kids had to work much harder than me, and that I should be grateful they were taking care of me. Taking care of me. Like they were doing me a favor. I went up to my room and cried until I fell asleep, and that was pretty much the last time I tried to talk to my dad about how I felt. I learned there was no point. Things continued the same for years. I went to school, got good grades because I knew that was my only way out of that house, and did all the work. They gave me without complaining because I'd already learned complaining didn't do any good. Nicole was still in college, though she basically failed half her classes and had to repeat several semesters. Rebecca always had an excuse for her, that the professors were unfair, that the classes were too hard, that Nicole was going through a difficult time. But me? If I ever got less than an A on something, it was because I wasn't trying hard enough, according to Rebecca. When I was 16, Jason came to visit me, and we had a conversation that basically changed my perspective on everything. We were in my room, and I was folding laundry while he told me about his first year in college. Suddenly, he went quiet and said, "Hey, can I ask you something?" I said yes, and he asked me if I thought the treatment I received at home was normal. I thought for a moment and told him, I guess so, that every family was different, and he looked me straight in the eyes and said, "No, this isn't normal, this is wrong, and you deserve so much better than this." He said it so seriously, so convinced, that something in me clicked. like someone had finally given me permission to admit that what was happening to me wasn't okay. Jason told me that when I turned 18, I should apply to universities far from there, that I should look for scholarships, do whatever was necessary to get out of that house. He said he and Diana would always support me, that I had family who really loved me. And for the first time in years, I felt something like hope. I started working super hard in school, joined clubs, did community service, did everything I could to make sure I could get a scholarship for college. It was my escape plan, and I clung to it like my life depended on it, because it basically did. The day I turned 18 was weird. My dad and Rebecca took me to dinner at a regular restaurant, nothing special, and Nicole didn't even come because she had plans with her friends. During dinner, my dad asked me what I was going to do after graduating high school, and I told him, very calmly, that I had applied to several universities and was waiting for responses. Rebecca made a weird face and said she hoped I wasn't planning to go too far, that it was my responsibility to help with the house, especially now that Nicole needed support with school. I just smiled and didn't say anything. But inside I was thinking there was no way in the world I was staying one day longer than necessary in that house. 2 months later, I got the letter. A full scholarship to a university like 6 hours away. It covered everything. Tuition, housing, food, books, everything. I cried when I read it, like I cried with happiness for the first time in I don't know how many years. I showed the letter to my dad and he looked, I don't know, like, proud, but also a little sad. Maybe because he knew I was leaving and probably wasn't going to come back much. Rebecca, on the other hand, got furious, said it was selfish of me to leave, who was going to help with the house, that Nicole needed me. Nicole needed me, as if she had ever done anything for me. I told Rebecca, very politely but very firmly, that I had already accepted the scholarship and was leaving in August. And that was that. The months before I left were tense. Rebecca barely spoke to me, and when she did, it was to remind me of everything she had supposedly done for me. My dad was somewhere in the middle, trying to keep the peace but not really supporting me or defending me from Rebecca. Nicole was still being Nicole, basically invisible to me at that point. But I didn't care. I was counting the days until I could leave, until I could start my real life. August came and Diana and Jason helped me move to college. My dad said he couldn't help me because he had to work, even though it was a Saturday, and Rebecca didn't even come down from her room to say goodbye. Nicole was sleeping when I left. Diana hugged me before leaving and told me she was proud of me, that my mom would be proud of me, and that I could always count on her for anything. And for the first time in almost 10 years, I felt like someone really loved me. College was amazing. It was hard. I'm not going to lie. Classes were difficult, and I had to work part-time to have extra money. But it was mine, you know. My life was mine, and I made my own decisions. I didn't have to clean up anyone else's mess. I didn't have to listen to Rebecca complain about nonsense. I didn't have to see Nicole lying around doing nothing while I worked. I was free. And that feeling was indescribable. My dad called me occasionally. Short, awkward conversations where he asked how I was doing, and I gave general answers. Rebecca never called me, not once. Nicole didn't either, until one day, during my second year, she sent me a super long message asking me to write her college essays. Like, not even a, "Hi, how are you?" Just straight to the point asking me to do her homework. I responded very simply, "No, I'm not going to do that. You should do your own work." She replied that I was a bitch and had always been selfish. I blocked her without responding anything else. About an hour after that, Rebecca called me screaming, saying how dare I refuse to help Nicole, that after everything they had done for me. I told her, very calmly, because I knew getting angry wasn't going to help, that I wasn't going to cheat for Nicole and she needed to learn to do things herself. Rebecca told me I was ungrateful and hung up. Then my dad called me, not yelling but sounding very disappointed, saying I could have helped Nicole, that families help each other. And I thought, really? Now, families help each other? Where was that philosophy when I was 9 years old and they left me alone on Christmas? But I just told him I respected his opinion, but my decision was made. And I hung up. During my third year of college, my dad texted me saying he wanted to meet with me, that he and Rebecca were going to be near my university for something and wanted to see me. I really didn't want to, but a part of me That stupid part that still wanted to have some connection with my dad? Agreed. We met at a coffee shop near campus on a Saturday afternoon. My dad looked older. He was like 47 at that time, but looked older. And Rebecca looked the same, with that face she always had, like she smelled something bad. After like 5 minutes of awkward conversation, they got to the point. Nicole had dropped out of college, had a bunch of student loan debt, and they needed help paying it. They told me just like that, direct, as if it was my responsibility to fix Nicole's mess. My dad told me I had a full scholarship, that I didn't have expenses, that I surely had money saved from my job. Rebecca added that it was the least I could do after they had raised me all those years. I sat there, looking at them, unable to believe what I was hearing. I told them, no. Simple? Direct? No. My dad started trying to convince me, saying Nicole was technically my sister, that families support each other. And something in me exploded. I told them, my voice shaking with rage, I didn't know I had. You were never my family. Rebecca, you treated me like your personal servant since I was 10. You left me alone on Christmas when I was 9. You never defended me, Dad. You just let this happen. And now you come asking me for money to fix Nicole's mess? A person who never did anything for me, who never treated me with respect, and you expect me to just say yes. I told them everything I had kept inside for years, every time I felt ignored, every time I cried in my room, every time I wondered why my dad didn't protect me. And when I finished, I got up and left, leaving them sitting there in the coffee shop. My dad called me like 20 times that night, left voicemails saying we needed to talk, that I was being unfair, that I had misunderstood everything. I didn't answer a single call. Like 2 weeks later, he sent me a very long text message explaining that Nicole had dropped out of college and had like $30,000 in debt, that Rebecca was devastated, that he didn't know what to do. He asked me to please reconsider helping them, that he had always tried to do his best for me. I responded with just one message. I wish you the best, Dad, but I can't help you with this. Take care. And that was basically the last time I spoke to him. Jason called me after finding out about all this. Diana had told him because my dad had had the audacity to call her asking her to convince me to help. Jason told me I had done the right thing, that I didn't owe them anything, that he was proud of me for finally standing up for myself. Diana sent me a long message saying the same thing, that my mom would be proud, that I had been stronger than any child should have to be. I graduated with honors like 6 months ago, got a good job at an accounting firm. I have my own small apartment. And honestly, I'm okay. It's not perfect. There are still days when I get angry thinking about everything I went through. Days when I wonder how my dad could let them treat me like that. But there are also days when I feel proud of myself for getting out of all that, for building a life that's mine. My dad texted me last month, a short message saying he missed me. I didn't respond. I don't know if I'll ever want to have a relationship with him again. Honestly, I don't know. Part of me still misses him, misses the dad he was before Rebecca came along, but that dad doesn't exist anymore, or maybe he never really existed. Diana and Jason are still my family, the only ones who really matter. I saw Diana last week. We had dinner together and she told me Rebecca and my dad are still together, that Nicole still lives with them, working part-time somewhere. I didn't ask for more details because honestly I don't care. I guess the lesson from all this, if there is one, is that family isn't always the people you share blood with. Sometimes, your family is the people who choose to be there for you, who defend you, who make you feel like you matter. And I found that in Diana and Jason, in the friends I made in college, in the life I built myself. And that's enough.